for Vera versus Sandhagen, UFC Fight Night. There's 13 fights on the card, and both these guys are probably fighting for the next shot of the title. But first fight on the card, Vidal versus Cowan. Vidal's a lot younger. She's got only one fight in the UFC. Cowan's making her debut, fought in Contender Series and got a win, but it was only a split decision. She's a bit older as well to be making her debut. Nearly 31, whereas Vidal's already fought in the UFC and got a knockout. They're both ranked fairly high at bantamweight, considering it's first fight in the night, but I'd go with Vidal just because she's on a better streak and she's fought in UFC before. Second fight, Salvador versus Altamirano. Salvador making his UFC debut. The odds are pretty close as well, pretty much evens. This guy's got a lot of finishes though. He won his last fight 6 months ago with a knockout. Slightly taller. He is older, but he's fought in UFC before. I think for this fight I'll go with Victor, just because he does have a bit of experience in UFC. Salvador's not fought outside the Contender Series before, so he's making his debut, but not fought in almost a year outside the Contender Series, whereas Victor fought about 6 months ago, so go Victor Altamirano for the first fight, or second fight. After that, it's lightweight. Manuel Torres is the favourite in this one. Both these guys are ranked pretty low at lightweight, but they both fought before in the UFC. Torres fought in Contender Series about a year ago and got a KO. Got another KO in UFC. They're pretty much the same height, same reach, although Torres is 5 years younger. He's on the up. This guy, he's probably on the way out if he doesn't win this fight. He's already 33 and he's ranked super low, so I'd say Manuel Torres again on this one, but it's a close one. Next fight, Vera versus Da Silva, a flyweight again. Both these guys lost their last fight. Daniel Da Silva's never actually won in UFC. He's had 3 fights and lost all of them, so it's not looking good. He's young, but he's not fought well in the UFC. CJ's had 3 fights, he's 1-2, so both these guys haven't performed that well in the UFC, but I'll go CJ Vergara for this one. I could say going either way. Neither of them have really done too much in the UFC, but Vergara's ranked a little higher, on the overall rankings. But they're both the same height as well, so again, another close fight. Trevin Giles, Preston Parsons, fighting a welterweight. They're ranked pretty low. Neither of these guys are too young, but both got a win in their last fight. Parsons is 1-1 in the UFC, whereas Trevin Giles, he is not sure. Okay, so he's had quite a few fights in the UFC, and he did beat Roman Dolidze as well. It's obviously a good win to have, and fought Duplessis, so he's fought some good people. So I'll go with Trevin Giles just because of experience. And His last win was a little more recent. Next fight, Steven Peterson versus Lucas Alexander. Again, both these guys lost their last fight. Steven Peterson is a lot older. Well, not a lot, but 5 years older. He's 32 though, so he's not too old. He hasn't fought in a year though. His last win was almost 2 years ago. Lucas Alexander's never won in UFC. Although before that, he was on a bit of a win streak. He's the underdog, but I will go with Lucas Alexander in this fight. You know, it could go either way. They both lost their last fight, but Lucas Alexander's got a lot of finishes, so I'll say him. He is slightly taller as well, and a bit younger. Next fight, Daniel Pineda versus Tucker Lutz. Daniel Pineda has been pretty inactive. He obviously lost to Cub Swanson. I fought Andre Feely, Herbert Burns, so he's fought some good people in UFC, but he's not really performed that well. And then, yeah, Tucker Lutz not fought in a while. He fought twice on Contender Series before getting a contract, and then he's 1-1. I will say Tucker Lutz though, just because he's fought slightly more recently. You know, Daniel Pineda's not won a fight in almost 3 years in the UFC, so just because of inactivity. And he's also 37. He's definitely coming to the end of his career. If he loses this, it could be the last one in the UFC. So, say Tucker Lutz maybe by a finish. You know, second round KO, first round KO. A middleweight fight here. Again, pretty close. Both guys lost their last fight. They're both 34. Almost exactly the same age. So this guy's a lot taller, much longer arms. I think you have to go with him. He's a slight favourite, but you know all the stats are pointing towards him. A lot of finishes as well on his record, whereas this guy seems to be more of a points fighter. So I'll say this guy for this fight, probably by knockout. Now the fight's starting to get good. It's Alex Perez versus Manel Kape. Manel Kape's looked really good in his last 2 fights, plus the only fights he's lost in the UFC has been decisions. I'm not sure if he's ever been finished. And he's still not even 30 yet, so he's got a long way to go. Alex Perez has had a load of cancelled fights. He's only been able to fight 2 times in the last couple years. Obviously lost to Figueiredo, got kind of unlucky in some of these fights, but I think you have to pick Manel Kape, you know, not just because he's the favourite, but he's been a lot more active as well. You know, he fought only a couple of months ago. It's been almost 3 years since Alex Perez won a fight, so, you know, Manel Kape's just en route to the belt. Andrea Lee versus Macy Barber, again, another fight that could really go either way. Neither of these people are super impressive. I mean, Macy Barber's won her last 2 fights, but split decision. Andrea Lee lost. She's got a couple of finishes here. I'll say Macy Barber, but you know, Andrea Lee is a lot older as well. About 10 years older. I mean, it could go either way. Neither of them really would probably go for a finish, but I'll say Macy Barber decision. Next fight. Knight's a pretty big favourite. I definitely back him just because experience, right? You know, this guy's 2-1 in the UFC. Knight fought about 6 months ago, got a win. Yeah, just like experience. Both guys lost the last 2 fights, or won the last 2 fights, sorry. So it could go either way, but I'd pick Knight in this one. Co-main event, Holly Holmes fighting both former champs or title contenders. Holly Holm's the favourite, and I think Holly Holm will win this. She's been getting active, she hasn't been fighting too often, but I'd say Holly Holm decision. She's a lot older, she doesn't need to start losing and slowing down eventually, but I think she has enough to get, a decision here. But yeah, not that many finishes on either people's records, so I'll say Holly Holm decision. Then the main event, Marlon Vera, Sandhagen. Marlon Vera got a nice win streak on the go. 2 finishes in his last 4 fights, but Dominic Cruz, Frankie Edgar both had kick knockouts. Then the Rob Font win as well is good. Cody Sandhagen lost a couple close decisions, You could argue he won both these fights if you wanted to. Then, obviously the Marias, the flying knee as well. I think Cody Sandhagen wins just because of his height, his length. I think he'll be able to stay away from Marlon Vera and get a decision, slow him down, and then probably either fight back towards the title or maybe one other title eliminator. But yeah, that's my picks for this week. I'm going Cody Sandhagen in the main event, and then I'll be back next week.